8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Project Egg Show. I'm your host, Ben Gothard, and today we have the honor of speaking with Lauren Tickner, a gal who has over 2,000 students inside of her impact school and a NASDAQ top 10 rated podcast with hundreds of thousands of followers across her social media channels. In addition, Lauren has done some incredible things and is super incredibly cool. But I'm not going to keep talking. Let's find out from the legend herself. Lauren, welcome to the show.
That was quite the intro, you know. I'm not too sure if I'm quite a legend, but I'll take it. So thank you so much for having me. And hello to all the listeners, the viewers, and everyone all around the world. I'm excited to have a chat and just share a bunch of value with you.
Awesome. So let's hit the ground running. First question is, what is your story?
My story. Okay, so I'm gonna keep this as short as possible. So, wow. Well, I'm 22 and I am an online entrepreneur. I'm absolutely obsessed and passionate about online business. It changed my life, and that's why I like to help other people build their own online business. So for me, the whole online business thing started actually, I think I was always destined to do it. Because when I was a kid, you know how some people like say they had a lemonade stand? I was not one of those people. I was not entrepreneurial, but I always sold stuff on eBay. Like I saw my mum selling stuff on eBay, and I just really wanted to get involved and help her. And I just found it really cool that you could just do that from, well, back then it was like a camera, I guess, and connecting it up to your computer and just selling things. I mean, I just found it amazing how you could just like make money. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, I want to do it too. So I started doing that. And then when I was about 14 years old, I started out on Tumblr. I don't know if any of the listeners or you perhaps know about Tumblr, but it's kind of like it was a social media / blogging thing. And I did it in secret because I didn't want any of my friends to know about it. And I think so often we, as people who are perhaps a little bit entrepreneurial or people who want to achieve big things, we're a little bit different, right? And so I didn't want other people to know about that because I knew that they would judge me. Because like, who has a Tumblr? No one did it. And people that they knew who did it were just perhaps people who were maybe egotistical or things like that. So didn't tell anyone about it. I ended up building a really big audience on there. But yeah, still to this day, I think a lot of my friends from school still don't really know. But that's kind of what happened. And then in my mind, I wanted to be successful. But I wanted to be successful in the corporate world. So I had a vision of wanting to work my way up the corporate ladder and become the CEO of a FTSE 100 company. So that's kind of like, you guys have like the Fortune 500 and the Fortune 100. It's like the equivalent of that here in the UK. I just thought it'd be, it's just what I wanted to do. And so when I was 18 years old, rather than going straight to university, I actually went and worked at a investment management firm. And everyone was like, how did you get that job, Lauren? That's an amazing job. Like, you're so successful. You're only 18. And it was funny because from the outside, it seemed like I was so incredibly, quote unquote, successful. But on the inside, I hated every single day of it. I was so unhappy. I was going to work, doing the same mundane, meticulous, monotonous tasks every single day. That just, quite frankly, made me not want to get out of bed in the morning. And that was at the age of 18. And so I was pretty fortunate at such a young age to realize that I wanted more for my life than to just be a cog in a machine. And look, here's the thing. Some people are quite happy with that. Some people don't mind having a job like that because they like the stability. They like the fact that they can go to work Monday to Friday and have their weekends off and not have their boss text them or not have to worry about anything. But I'm not like that. I love to love what I do. I love to know that what I'm doing is making a difference. And I love to know that the thing that I'm working on at that current moment in time, it's going to actually reach someone directly rather than go and make a business a bit of money, you know? So that was kind of my way of fortunately realizing that that wasn't what I wanted to do, and I realized it so young. And so this whole time I had actually had a fitness journey, right? So I didn't get into that side of things, but long story short, I created a fitness Instagram account. And by this point, I'd already built up a following of probably around 10,000 people, which back then was a lot. Now everyone has a fitness Instagram. And so it's not quite the same, but it's probably the equivalent of like, you know how obviously with money you have inflation, pretty much have the same thing with social media followers. So it's probably like the equivalent of like 200,000 followers back then. And so I was always getting invited to all these events, and I went to work and I went to the events after my job. And loads of the people that I was meeting, they were online fitness coaches. And I saw these YouTubers who were online fitness coaches. And I was like, what is this online fitness coaching thing? Now, I wasn't a personal trainer at the time, but I knew a lot more about fitness than most personal trainers. So I was obsessed with fitness, like obsessed, reading scientific articles, the whole. You might have noticed, like, when I get into something, I get really obsessed with it. I think it's like sort of part of my DNA, and a lot of people listening to this can probably relate. Like how you find out about one new thing, such as perhaps maybe you learn about Facebook ads for the first time, and you just like indoctrinate yourself with it, and you just learn everything you possibly can with it. I don't know. So anyways, I quit my job and I got my personal training qualifications, and I started this whole online fitness coaching thing, and it changed my life. Within 3 months of quitting that job, I actually tripled my monthly income from my asset management job. And I was just like, this is crazy. I'm working like 2 hours a day. I'm going to the gym at the time of day that I want. All my friends are like working in pubs and they're earning £10 or like $10 an hour. And I was like, I'm earning thousands and thousands per month just for doing what I would do for people for free anyway. Like, what? Like, how is this real? And so I ended up going to university on what was at the time the UK's #1 business degree. And so I went to university. It was like a few months later, and the whole time I was still building my online fitness coaching business. I started selling fitness ebooks and like low ticket products and things. And at uni, they just weren't teaching me things that were helping me build my business. And so I kind of thought to myself, okay, Lauren, like you have this one opportunity, like you don't know how long this is gonna last. Do you stay in university and continue to learn things that aren't necessarily serving you? Yeah, you're having a good time, like being around your friends and stuff, but you have friends who are back at home who are also into the same thing as you, and you can travel the world if you want to, if you're not at uni. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I quit my job, and pretty much that was like a year and a half ago now. I quit uni, and yeah, that was a year and a half ago. And now, because of the fact that online coaching literally changed my life and I became so obsessed with it, I now help other people build their own online coaching business, whether they're someone who wants to be a fitness coach, or perhaps a productivity, a mindset, a life coach, or a business coach, social media coach, like whatever type of coach. I now help people build their own coaching business. And I guess because of the nature of the fact that I build my audience in the fitness and personal development and mindset sort of space, that's where the majority of my customers come from. But it's super rewarding, super fulfilling, and doing the whole social media thing at the same time. So that was my story as fast as possible. It's kind of still a bit long. So yeah.
Well, if that was your story as fast as possible, what's the long story? What's the whole version? What do we leave out?
Well, the fitness side of things, that's what obviously got me started in this whole thing. But that's another story. If you want me to go into it, I'm happy to, but depends how you want to take this.
Yeah, I want to hear the whole story. Yeah.
Okay. So that means we're gonna have to backtrack a little bit. So this was when I was 15 years old. So when I was 15, I was actually overweight for my height. You wouldn't think it now, kind of looking at me, because I'm so into my weight training and eating well and everything. But yeah, I was overweight. I was actually picked on by the boys in my year. And for sure, I was friends with all the, I hate the word, but like the cool people, like the popular people, you know? Like I was good friends with them. But at the same time, like people still mock people and people still bully people, right? And so I was going through puberty. I had like a shiny forehead and I was overweight. And so, yeah, the guys in my year used to call me Mackie D's because, because I had a greasy forehead and because I was overweight. And so I experienced bullying, and I experienced the feeling of just feeling like no one necessarily like cares about you, and that people think that you're, I guess, like not worthy. And so, yeah, that's probably one of the reasons, honestly, why I've been propelled into what I do now, because I wanted to help people lose weight in a healthy way, because after my fitness journey, I lost weight personally in a really unhealthy way. I didn't have an eating disorder, but like when I look back, I think I did. And I think it was something called orthorexia, which is where you actually want to just eat super healthy and you only care to eat the healthiest things possible. And so, yeah, like I lost weight in a really unhealthy way. And that's what actually led me into weight training and focusing on fueling my body. And so because of all of that, because of my own personal story, that's why I wanted to help other people not have to go through the same thing. And I think that's honestly what a lot of people have been through their own story with certain things, right? Everyone's been from somewhere and got to the other side. And so that's why I know that there are so many people out there who can build successful online coaching businesses simply based on their story. And so that's honestly what's led me to what I help people with now, because yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, everyone's been through their own battles. And if you've got out the other side, there are other people who are going through it right now. And you can help those people get out and not make the same mistakes that you did, because you've already made the mistakes. They don't need to make them anymore. And I think that's the beauty of it, honestly. So yeah, like that was sort of like my fitness journey in a nutshell. But yeah.
When you were 15, I believe, and you were experiencing that bullying, and you had those feelings of unworthiness or that people just didn't care, at what point did you actually work through those things? Because those are very powerful and they're very painful. And it seems like that takes very intentional effort to actually work through that. So how did you and when did you work through those things?
That's a really good question, and honestly not something that I've ever really thought about. So I think when you're that sort of age, people are nasty to people. I mean, they even are at any age, I think, but at that age, I think it's definitely amplified. And back then, it ruined me that they were so mean. So I was about to go and start a new school at that age, at 15 or maybe 14. And I didn't want to go to the new school because of the fact that they were bullying me, right? But I had to, you know. I told my parents, like, I don't want to go to this school. I want to go to another school. But they were like, no, you're going to go to this one because it's better, like, academically. And so I guess I kind of like, I had to just accept that that was what was going to be, that happened. I was going to be around these people and I had to find a way to try to ignore it. So what I did was not what I recommend, but I then became like the life of the party. You know, I was always the one who was the most drunk at the party. And I was always the one who was like the most loud and the most like catastrophic and trying to like, I guess, conceal the fact that I was so insecure. And so that's not the best way to deal with things, you know. In hindsight, how would I have dealt with that? At that age, it's impossible to know. Now, I'm very fortunate to really not care what people think about me, because I think what I've realized is that if you think about like some of the most successful people in the world, right? So let's just think about it from like a showbiz point of view. Think of someone like Beyonce. You think of like Jay-Z as well. You think of like Miley Cyrus. All these people are bloody weird. And the thing is, they're different. And you just have to think like, okay, what about like Elon Musk? And what about, you know, Richard Branson? They do weird things. And it's like the most successful people in life are really weird. And it's like, you shouldn't be ashamed of being weird or being different, because it makes you unique. And if you want to be like everyone else, then go ahead and be like everyone else. But guess what? They're living really mediocre lives, like really boring and dull lives. They're going to work every day, doing something the majority of people hate. They're not really making a difference. They're bland. They complain. They watch TV rather than actually going and doing things with their life. And it's like, So these people who used to bully me, they now ask me for a job. And it's just like, it's kind of funny because when I look back, it does make me laugh. But at the time, when you're so wrapped up in something, it's hard to look at things that way. So kind of now what I do is like, I say to myself, is this going to matter in 5 years from now? And if not, then I'm just like, okay, let's move past it. And I also think when I'm facing when I'm facing negativity or resistance or anything, I just think like, I'm going to get through the other side of this and it's going to make such a good story. Like it is literally going to make the best story. So when I was in the fitness industry, I wanted to create a leggings company because I created this hashtag, which is strength feed, right? And on social media, it has like 200,000 posts on it and probably more by now, which is awesome. So I created like workout ebooks and stuff like that. And it was like my kind of brand, right? And so I wanted to create the strength feed leggings. So back then I invested £10,000, which is like, I don't know, $13,000, which back then when I believe I was 19, that was like a lot of money for me. That was over how much I was earning in like a month. And so, you know, that was a ton of money and it still is like 10 grand's a lot. And so I invested that into getting custom leggings made. There was like hundreds of pairs of them coming. I was stoked about it. I built it all up on social media. I spent months, over a year actually, on the whole process, but months building the web pages and the emails and everything. And guess what? I get the bulk order to my house, by the way. Like this isn't going to like a warehouse, it's coming to my house, my dad's house actually. And yeah, I take one out and you can imagine how excited I am at this point. I'm so excited. And I was like, I decided, okay, I'm going to take the pink pair because like pink is, you know, I'm a girl. And I take it out, I go to put it on and I'm just like, it's fleecy. And I was like, hang on, these are gym leggings. So I try to get it on my leg. I'm like pulling it up my leg and like, I put the size small on and, you know, normally I'm a small or an extra small and like, it doesn't go on. And I was just like, what has happened? And so I try so hard to put it on and it won't fit. I tried to put the medium size on, it won't fit. I tried to put the large size on, the large just about fit. And I was like, what the hell has happened here? So I'm like freaking out. I'm literally freaking out. I emailed the manufacturer straight away, like, what have you done to my leggings? Well, actually, no, I was like, I was more composed. I was like, hi, I think there's been a bit of a mistake here. I have, I know, over 500 pairs of leggings here in my house and they're fleecy. And so he's like, no, he replies back pretty quickly, actually, saying like, no, there's nothing wrong with them. Anyways, so at this point, I'm like, I've just lost £10,000. I might as well have just like burned all that money because I've just lost all this cash. And so, and all the time and everything. And so, yeah, it turns out like that something about the horizontal wash was done wrong. I don't know. It still scars me to this day. But basically, the lesson from that is that I should stick with online coaching and service-based things rather than physical products. Now, just to wrap up the story for you, so you don't feel too sorry for me, I did end up getting back most of the money minus the VAT because at this point I wasn't VAT registered. I don't know if that means anything to you guys over the other side of the pond, but it's basically I ended up getting like 80% of the money back, but I didn't get the time back. And so another lesson that came from that was like, okay, not only should I just focus on the coaching, but it's like entrepreneurial, like shiny object syndrome is a real problem. And honestly, it is so easy to chase the next best thing. So easy to want to jump from business idea to here, there, and everywhere. But only now, and I can't believe I'm saying this, 4 years into being told this from podcast, I listen to like multiple podcasts a day. I still can't believe I'm only saying this as of literally the past 3 weeks. Stick to one offer or one product and take it up to like, I don't know, a million, and then move on. Okay? There's no point trying to focus on all these different things. Please just trust me. Take it from me as someone who is like, you can probably notice how even when I'm having a conversation, I struggle to focus because I'm always getting so many ideas about what I want to talk about. you need to focus. Otherwise you won't be as successful as you want. So in response to your question about the people who used to bully me, I really think like you're going to learn from everything, and that's how I like to think. You know, you never lose, you learn. So there we go.
We talked about a lot of cool things that I want to unpack, and the one that I want to start with is not caring what people think, or at least being aware that being different is cool. And, you know, when you stand out, that actually is a good thing because, you know, more people notice you. So it helps your brand. And then, but at the same time, when you stand out and a lot of people notice you, they have the ability to then critique you. So you have to really have thick skin to be able to handle that, right? So I guess what my question is how do you handle that criticism? How do you handle that exposure? I mean, you say you're 22, right?
Yeah.
So how do you, like, you know, most people are just getting out of that, you know, kind of that teen phase where what everybody thinks of them is all that they care about. So how do you manage that? How do you deal with that?
It's a really good question, and it is one that I do get a lot. And I do find it quite hard to answer because I have been doing this for quite a long time now. And because of the fact that when I was younger, I did get picked on. But I think for me, so I guess one pretty critical part of the story that I missed out was my brother's actually disabled. So he has epilepsy, autism, various other learning disabilities. And so, for example, he's in a wheelchair, like he has to be fed. He can't actually eat for himself. So he's fed through a tube. And so when we used to be walking around like Disneyland or something, people would be staring at us. Like he basically, because he has epilepsy, sometimes he has this very specific and rare type of epilepsy, that sometimes he goes into this thing called non-convulsive status, which is basically where he's either totally blanked out, he can't focus on anything, like he's in his own world, and then suddenly he'll start like screaming and crying, which is a form of a seizure, right? And so I'm very used to having attention, negative attention on me. People perhaps maybe feeling sorry for me that my brother's like that, or people staring at us and my family. And so it is something that I have grown up with since I was 2, because my brother's 2 years younger than me. And so honestly, like for me, it's a very hard thing to answer, but I just have to think like attention comes from interrupting a pattern, right? Marketing is attention. Attention is something being different than something else. So if you want to build a business, or if you want to build an audience, you need attention. And with any form of attention comes both positive and negative attention. And it's really, really easy to, for example, let's say I'm out with my brother and my family, he starts having a seizure, right? Some people are going to stare at us and like glare, whereas dozens of people are going to ask if we want help. It's like dozens of people will say positive things to you, but then there'll be 1 or 2 negative comments or negative glares, but you notice them because as humans, we just notice negativity. Think about the news. Like people talk about negativity on the news the whole time. It's such an example that people always give on podcasts, but it's because it illustrates it really well. Like people want to gossip. They want to whinge. Boring that they need to. And so when you're surrounding yourself with positive people, you'll find that the conversation changes and they speak about positive things and things that are going to change lives. And so dealing with negativity, I think it's just something that you have to face. And it's down to you to be aware enough to understand the difference between constructive criticism and haters. Because realistically, people who are doing the things that you want to do, people who are achieving big things and making a real difference, they're not going to be bitching about you. They're going to be giving you constructive criticism that you can implement. So if it's criticism, if it's negativity, and if it's from someone who's in the position where you want to be, take it, implement it, learn from it. If it's not, screw them.
So you have an incredible ecosystem that you've built. And it seems like there are a lot of people who you influence and who you reach, who you touch. At the same time, I would imagine there are still a lot of things that you're trying to figure out. I mean, I know, like, I'm 24 and I know I have so many more things to figure out than I have figured out. So, you know, I may be a total weirdo. That may just be me, but my hunch is that it's not.
Sure.
So how do you balance both learning and growing and figuring things out that just come with this phase of life, but also being an expert and a bastion of knowledge and a business owner and really like being somebody that so many people look up to and take advice from? How do you balance those two things?
I do find it hard, you know, because I do I do. So I think that in order to, personally, I believe that balance is a bit of a sort of myth. So I kind of like to look at life as, it's just an analogy that I came up. So I really do see life as sort of like a series of volume dials, yeah? So at some points, there are some areas of your life, let's just say, and each volume dial adds up to 100%, yeah? So some areas of your life, let's just say you have a new product to launch in your business, or you're onboarding a new team member. You might have to turn your business dial up to, I don't know, 80%. Whereas that means that your social life is going to have to go down to 5. And maybe your TV watching has to go down to 0. And you see what I mean? So I think it's just a balancing act of things over time. I don't think at any one moment of time, everything can be perfectly balanced. If you're on vacation, then you're probably going to be, well, your health might take a bit of a dip because you're eating out loads and you're eating lots of yummy dessert, aka me when I visit the States. And that also means that maybe you're spending a little bit less time on your business because you're in a different time zone, so you can't communicate with your team properly, or you don't have good Wi-Fi, all these things. And so it's really about just like balancing things over time. Now, I am no expert at this, but I find that that's what works for me. Things ebb and flow. And I really like to do a solid sprint and go hard and honestly work myself pretty much to the ground. But then guess what? I go travel for like 3 months, where the cool thing is I work from my laptop, so I can. And I'm out and about for most of the day and I'm working 4 hours a day. And that's what works for me. And I really like that. And so it's just finding what works for you. Honestly, it really is. And also I think that connecting with people online who understand what you're doing is absolutely critical, because none of my friends from home, my friends from school who I'm still close with, none of them get what I do. None of them do what I do. So that's why, for example, like I love coming on podcasts like this and getting to connect with you, because now I know that we'll stay in touch, and it means that I now have another internet friend. And I think that's just really, really important. Yeah. So that's what I'd say on that.
As somebody who, you do have a really large audience, how do you feel about the responsibility that you have to make sure that you're doing the very best that you can because people are looking up to you. I mean, they're making decisions about their life based on what you say, right? And that, in my opinion, that's a lot of responsibility, right? So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I love it. I really do, because I know that I have made so many mistakes along the way. And so I'm sharing what people should not do. I don't ever share anything that I don't believe is going to truly, truly help people. And so I'm not really ever too worried about it. I think that it's important to make sure that when you have a platform and when you are focusing on building an audience, you know, you have to make sure that you're sharing the best information you possibly know. And if you have any doubt, you need to say, hey, like, this is what worked for me. It worked for me, it may not work for you. So that's when, yeah, I think you got to be really, really careful. But having the responsibility, again, I have been doing this for a long time. So it really, I can't imagine a life without it, you know? And so for me, like, yeah, I love it. It's awesome. I love meeting people who come up and say, hey, like, I've been able to quit my job and now I have my own business and I've been able to come to this event because I don't have to be at work. And it's so cool. And yeah, I think it's mad. It is mad. Like, when you think about it, it's crazy. But again, I just can't even imagine like a life without it, you know?
As you're doing your sprints, and then, you know, you go travel and work really, really, really hard, and then go travel and, you know, go back and forth there. Do you find that you're working towards something really specific, like that you're building something, you know, something huge that you know you have like this master plan for, or are you just kind of figuring out as you go?
Ooh, interesting question. So I'm not gonna lie. I am often figuring it out as I go. You know, like, I I don't really do too well with exact structure, but that is what I'm really working on changing at the moment. In every area of my life, I hate structure. I hate it. But it's interesting because I love systems and processes. So I love systems and processes inside my business, aka, okay, when this happens, this is what we do. When this happens, here's the team member to go to, and this is what they do. Like, I love that. I live for that. But when it comes to me personally, I really don't like it. I like, honestly, being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. Like, that's why I built my business in the first place. But now I've realized that scaling to seriously like building an empire and build a business that isn't just like my name, it requires much more like discipline, honestly, discipline. And so, yeah, I'm really focusing now on having that structure and putting those systems in place. But I do think that at any one time, when you're working on one particular thing, it does feel like the biggest thing in the world. So let's take an example. Right now, I'm just like, well, today and for the rest of the day, I need to finish building out a funnel. That's just the thing that I need to do. To me right now, that's like the biggest thing that needs to get done. But really, in the grand scheme of things, like, it's not the biggest thing that actually needs to get done. The biggest thing that actually needs to get done is I need to hire more people. That's actually the big thing. So it's like, I think it's really about sort of like prioritizing. And yeah, it's still something that I'm learning, and it's something that I do find hard. Yeah, I'm trying to just figure all this out, you know.
When I think of somebody like Confucius, or somebody like Oprah, or somebody like Ben Franklin, these are like historical characters that have created a lot. I mean, they've created a lot, and they've created a lot of things that are going to live way past them. I mean, you know, you think about Confucianism, that is a philosophy that has been around for thousands of years, and there are now thousands of schools around the world that teach exclusively Confucianism. Right? It's incredible. It's incredible to think about it, especially because it wasn't adopted that heavily when he was alive. When you think about your legacy and what you want to leave behind, and what you want people to be or how you want to be impacting people 10,000 years from now, 100,000 years from now, what does that look like? What do you want to leave behind? How do you want to shape the world?
I really just want to help people realize that they don't have to conform to society's current standards. I think that how we live, not me personally, not you personally, but as a society, I believe honestly that it is stuck in a very, very old fashioned and outdated way of being. I really believe that the current system of education is creating workers, and not everyone is designed to be a worker. And I find that very problematic because it makes those who are entrepreneurial and who do want to make a big impact and big difference, it makes them feel like they aren't worthy. Oftentimes, people who are the best entrepreneurs were dumb in school. And so then they're pushed into a job, perhaps, construction or some sort of laborer, and they're never able to achieve their fullest potential because the people around them judge them for trying to do something different. And so it's just this massively negative loop that entrepreneurial types get pulled into. So I really desire to show people that there is another way and there's another way of doing things. And even if right now you don't believe that you can achieve these things, I want to show people that they can. And I want to show people that their life is way too short to go ahead and live it in a way that isn't super rewarding and super fulfilling. And the thing is, I have grown up in seeing my brother who wasn't able to take full control of his life. And it's like, when you see someone who isn't able to do that, you best believe that you're going to go ahead and live his life for him and achieve massive things for him because you can. And that's what I want people to realize. It's like, you can take control of your life and achieve the things that you want to achieve. It's like, you just have to do it. Like the cost of not doing it is way too great, and it will cause you to just live a life where you never feel like you're fulfilled. So it's all about freedom and fulfillment for me.
What are some truths that you hold now that you think in 10 years might change?
Ooh, I like it. Okay, so I guess like how hard I work. I work so hard, and I know that I don't need to, but I love it. And so I think that will change. I do think that, well, as time goes on, it is changing slowly. So I'm pretty certain that is something that I'll change my mindset on. Other things that I think I'll change my mind on. This has really got me thinking, because I think this is actually such an important question to ask. I don't know if you sort of like follow Dean Jackson or like Joe Polish, but they always talk about thinking about how you think. And they say how being able to think about how you think is like the truest and greatest level of mastery of the entrepreneur. And I think that trying to understand how your thoughts are going to change is really going to change how you live, right?
It could.
So, well, I think one thing that I've noticed about myself is that as time goes on, I have definitely become more open-minded. I used to be very, very closed-minded. And so, yeah, I guess like just being more open to people's different ways of living. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is like the work ethic thing. Do you ask this to everybody?
No, it just seemed like it would be a good question to ask you.
I like it. What do you think? I'm intrigued. I want to ask you. I'm a podcaster, so I'm just like going into my normal role right here. How do you think you're going to think differently?
I hope that I'm going to learn how to how to connect more deeply with people, how to love more fully, and how to be way more in touch with who I am at my core as time goes on, because those are things that are very important to me. And those are things that I strive to be really good at, and I strive to be the best at, and not the best comparatively to other people, but, compared to who I was yesterday. So, I hope in 10 years that I get better at that, and I keep evolving and growing. Yeah, I think those are the most important things to me.
Yeah, I really like that. And so that kind of brought something up for me, is like, I hope that in 10 years time, like my way of thinking about sort of like, I guess like being around other people. I don't know about you, but I find it very easy to really just spend a lot of time by myself and like not care to surround myself with other people. But I read something from one of my friends yesterday who also does the whole online business thing. And he was basically saying how he's gone on a trip to Miami for a while by himself. And he's now like actively going to focus on like being around other people. And there was just like one sentence that really hit me. And it basically said like, you constantly wonder why you're not as happy as you could be, but then you just sit in your office all day and work by yourself. And it just hit me so hard because I am so happy. Like I love what I do, but I know that I'm not as happy as I could be. And it's like I often feel like very, very lonely in what I'm doing. And so I really hope that moving forward, I think that the way in which I can change this the most easily is moving somewhere where there are like-minded people around. Because like, for example, a goal for me right now is like, I really want to move to the States. So it's just a case of like getting my visa and everything. Because I think in order to think differently, you need to be around other people who think differently. And that's definitely something that we're lacking here in the UK. So yeah, I like that question.
What's your greatest theory?
Ooh, my greatest theory. Well, I don't think that I necessarily have a theory that's like unique. But like I mentioned earlier, I really do believe that you never lose, you learn. That is such a belief of mine that I hope anyone listening to this right now takes home. Because when you can shift your mindset like that, every time you face something bad or a negative or resistance, you just say to yourself, hey, I'm going to learn from this. It's going to become a story that I can tell. So it works.
So, Lauren, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's been truly an honor to have been able to share this time with you, and it's been a ton of fun for, at least for me. Hopefully it's been for you too. So thank you very much. And
thank you so much.
Well, I just have one more question for you. Then we'll wrap it on up. And this is actually really, I'm so excited to ask this question because usually the people who come on the show are like older than me. So I'm so excited to ask this question. But, we talked about, you're 22, I'm 24. And so, on a very personal level, what question should I be asking you that I just wouldn't think to ask?
See, the thing is, I think that if I knew a lot more about you, I'd find it easier to do this one. The question which I think that you should be asking me, this is tough. Well, what's your biggest goal right now?
I mean, the things I talked about before. I mean, those really are my goals to get more in touch with who I am at my core. I truly believe, and I mentioned this before on the show, but I think it's worth repeating. Like, we have a lot of different layers to who we are as people. There's like who we are at our core. That's one layer. There's like the external influences that have come in and that they've now been internalized. And then there's some sort of play between those two. So it's all kind of jumbled up and it's very confusing, or can be. So, I think one of the greater purposes of my life is to be on a journey of continuous growth and self-discovery, to really dig through those layers and figure out who I really am at my core. So that honestly is my biggest goal.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That's pretty deep. So I think that when it comes to asking people about the one question that they should have been asked, I think the most important thing, honestly, that I would ask is related to their zone of genius. Like, what is the biggest mistake that you've made? I believe that if you can understand what people's mistakes were, you can take so much from it so that you don't have to make those mistakes for yourself. And I think that in doing that, it requires a really great sense of, it's not necessarily vulnerability, but it's more so the level of growth mindset that allows you to understand that you are someone who doesn't know everything. And just being open-minded and being willing to accept other people's failures as your own. So if I was to tell you what you should have asked me, it's probably what should I be asking other people? To go really meta is I think that's something that people forget to do. They ask the wrong sorts of questions. You're obviously great at it personally because you do podcasts. But for everyone who's listening to this right now, don't be afraid to ask questions. I'm sure you must have learned a lot from doing these interviews, right?
Oh my goodness. I mean, yes, unbelievably so, in ways that I could not even begin to articulate.
Because you ask really good questions. And then so many people just don't ask questions. And I'm saying it like that as a blanket statement because I used to be that person who was afraid to ask questions because I was worried about looking like an idiot. But so what if you look like an idiot? If you learn from it, that's awesome. So that was probably not your best answer to that. And I'm sorry, but I'm glad it opened the conversation to something which was really interesting.
That was a really good question. And I do want to say, I have asked so many dumb questions in my life. and for example, in school sometimes, back when I was in high school, for example, I remember always being the kid, to always raise my hand and ask the questions, even if it was the most basic, ridiculous thing that we may have just covered 30 seconds ago. I'd be like, hey, I don't get it. I have no idea what you're talking about now. You totally lost me. It was so embarrassing so many times, but I learned so much that I was like, wait a second. Only in my mind is this embarrassing. It's not actually hurting me in any way. I'm not going to die. I'm not going to get, nothing bad's going to happen. I'm just going to learn, So yeah, you're absolutely right. And that was a great answer. That was absolutely a great answer. So I just want to say thank you again so much for coming on the show. I really do, I'm so very grateful that you would carve time out of your very busy schedule to come talk with me today. So thank you.
No, thank you for having me. It's been great. And I really like how you do these podcast episodes. So I'm hoping that we share a lot of value. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And to everybody who's watching and listening, I want to say thank you. Y'all's time is very, very, very valuable. And so I'm very grateful that you choose to share some of it with us today. So thank you very much. I love y'all very, very much from the bottom of my heart. And I will see y'all on the next episode. Take care now.